Hi, here's a really tasty dessert recipe for you. It's for my summer fruit tart with an almond frangipane and homemade pastry. Okay, and for this recipe you'll need 200 grams of plain flour, 215 grams of unsalted butter, 2 eggs, 2 tablespoons of cold water, a pinch of salt, 100 grams of caster sugar, 100 grams of ground almonds and about 200 grams worth of frozen or fresh summer fruits. And finally some icing sugar for dusting. So we're going to start by making the pastry. Pour your plain flour into a large mixing bowl along with a pinch of salt. And to save that messy job of having to sieve the flour, simply get yourself a whisk, mix it through the flour until it's nice and fine. Next, get 115 grams worth of your unsalted butter and cut it into cubes once it's been brought up to room temperature. Then, using the tips of your fingers, work the flour and the butter mixture until it starts to resemble fine breadcrumbs. Next, separate the yolk out of one of your eggs from the egg white, and you're okay to discard the egg white as well. Then pour the yolk into a bowl along with 2 tablespoons of cold water and then whisk it together. And now pour the whisked egg yolk into the breadcrumb mixture and briefly stir with a knife until combined. Once the mixture looks something like this, you then need to stick your hands in and start kneading it together into a ball of dough. You then need to get yourself some cling film and then tightly wrap the dough up in the cling film. Then stick it in the fridge for about 30 minutes to let it cool. But now, in the meantime, we're going to prepare the frangipane. Using either a food mixer or doing it by hand, start by pouring your caster sugar and butter into a bowl, and then mix it thoroughly until it's nice and fluffy. Next, crack your other egg into the bowl, and then get your ground almonds, and if they're not ground already, simply blitz them in a food processor for a few minutes. Then, slowly start mixing the egg, sugar and butter mixture whilst pouring in the ground almonds. Once the frangipane mixture is thoroughly combined and your pastry is cooled in the fridge for at least 30 minutes, you then need to roll it out. So, make sure you have a well floured surface and then using a rolling pin, evenly roll out your pastry. You'll need to make sure it's the thickness of just under a £1 coin and you've got enough so you can cut out circles to fit 5 3-inch pastry tins. Lay a pastry tin on top of your pastry and then using a sharp knife cut a circle around it so you can then lay the pastry inside, making sure it covers the edges as well. Then using a sharp knife again, cut off any excess pastry that appears around the top of the tin so you can leave it looking nice and neat. And you need to do this with all 5 of your tart tins. In the next step, you then need to get your frangipane mixture, split it into 5, pouring it into each of the tins. Then quickly even the mixture out in each tin using either a spatula or a knife. And finally, you then need to get your mixed summer fruits, making sure they've been defrosted beforehand, and evenly sprinkle them on top of the frangipane of each tart. Then stick them in the oven on 180 degrees for between 20 and 25 minutes, making sure you keep an eye on them as well to make sure they're not burning. When they're done, remove them from the oven and then leave them to cool. Once cooled thoroughly, then remove them from the tart tins and then they're ready to serve with a dusting of icing sugar on top. And finally, these will go great with ice cream or whipped cream and some fresh mint on the side. And you can check out even more of my recipes by clicking on one of the videos coming up on your screen.